Hi there. Welcome to Healing Through Your Story. I'm your hostess, Leslie Karen Hammond, known as the Empowering Story Whisperer. Thank you for taking a few moments to show up today because this topic is so important. And the question that we're going to ponder is one of the most important questions you can ever ask yourself. One of the most important. And that question is, what do you need to take back or to reclaim? As women, as givers, as people who serve our communities, it is our nature to give and give and give. And what happens over time is that so much is given, there is no longer a boundary between what is needed to nurture and to sustain oneself, as if there's no separation between that and then caring for family, or the amount of time that we give to a business or to an employer. And when that line gets blurred over time, that initial attitude of take one for the team goes south, and it goes south quickly. So what do I mean by that? Well, when it goes south, then you'll notice resentment starting to bubble up when you don't have 5 minutes, or it doesn't feel like you have 5 minutes to go stand outside and to just take a few breaths, or to sit down without being disturbed. It is your birthright to be joyful, to be happy, to live, and to not constantly be on that hamster wheel. And when you're constantly giving, 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 and you're not saving anything for yourself, at some point there will be that last straw on the camel's back and things snap. And it's not pretty when that happens. I don't know of a woman alive who has not experienced something along those lines. Just that constant giving of oneself and trying to keep the balance in the family or in the office, trying to keep the peace. And eventually, these little pieces of what made these women so extraordinary and so vibrant and so brilliant, eventually some of these little pieces, they tend to disappear. They tend to just go by the wayside, and then before long you forget about these pieces. Hey there, thanks for joining. And all of these little pieces, they tend to be floating out, and it's not the kind of good out-of-body experience that one needs to have. So I am sure there are parts of you that need to be reclaimed. If this is a topic that really resonates with you, then I invite you to push the share button and share this with your community and to spread the word, because women have had it up to here with giving and giving and giving and not starting to claim more for themselves. And I'm not saying this from the standpoint of like going on a power trip, because that forceful voice just a moment ago, it felt like that. But I'm talking about reclaiming these pieces of you that knew joy. These pieces of you that felt so free and happy and could love without condition. It's almost like those parts of you before you went through the rite of passage into adulthood, when not necessarily, I'm not talking about irresponsible or being carefree to the point where there was recklessness involved, but I'm talking about a free, light spirit. And for some of you, maybe that lightness of spirit was writing poetry. Maybe it was painting. Maybe it was cooking or gardening or yoga or race car driving or mountain climbing. It could have been anything. But over time, as perhaps you stepped into a relationship and you started a family, or you got a promotion at work, or you started a business, and over time you just kept giving, and it felt easier, much easier, to just give somebody what they wanted and not take a stand for what you needed. And a lot of times that can even fall into the realms of a social justice issue, because you know something doesn't feel right, or it doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right. But if you say something, then the repercussions of speaking up and making a declaration about it feel like it could be more painful. Not only could you end up being chastised, but sometimes, if this has ever happened to you, I mean, holla, where you come up with a great idea and then someone thinks that you want to run with it. And it's like, oh, pile one more thing on the plate, when that wasn't what the intention was. But if nothing else, it's so important that you take from today, there are little pieces of you that through the course of your life and helping to keep the peace, that you have been abandoning these little parts of yourself. And initially, it may have felt like it was a sacrifice that was necessary, like it was the right thing to do because you needed to support other people. But if you have lived enough years on this planet, it could be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, you'll come to understand that if you are not feeding that fire that's within you, if you are not nurturing yourself, that burnout is so close. It's right around the corner. And when the body gets to the point that it just snaps and it burns out, it always happens at the worst possible time. There's a lot of things going on that you really need to show up and be present for. And when that happens, you may honor your body for a day or two. In worst cases, if you get a flu or something, then maybe you're down for a week or so. Gosh knows, that's happened to me a few times. But then you get right back on the horse and you keep going and you keep going. It's almost like childbirth. The pain of that experience of being knocked down was just, it becomes a distant memory. And the next thing you know, back at it again, back at it again. And so the important thing to remember is the brushing off or the ignoring, the deliberate non-attention that is put on rejuvenating the spirit, feeding the soul, nurturing the body. If you don't pay attention to that, it will ultimately somehow manifest in the body physically. Prime example of something manifesting. So I've always been a huge fan of taking a look at when something happens in the body. I'll pay attention to, okay, so the way that you're viewing. So if it happens on the right side of the body or on the left side of the body. So if it's on the right side of the body, that means that's the masculine side, and there's this constant pushing. And on the on the feminine side, then that invites one to take a look at, where do I need to be stronger and stand taller in the feminine power? And for me, historically, things show up on the right side because it's been a lifelong tendency to, it feels like there's always this constant fight and struggle for survival. I've gotten over the struggle piece, but it still feels like it's about survival in a lot of ways. And I mean, I could list off a whole slew of things happening on the right side of the body, but I'm not going to go there. But it's things that come up and want attention. And if you don't pay attention to it, then things are going to get worse. And that's what happens when you just let these little pieces of yourself go and you think, well, you know what? It's okay. It'll just be this once, and then you get over it. And hey there, thanks for joining. We're talking about reclaiming parts of ourselves that we tend to constantly give away and let go of because we are nurturers and we are givers. And a lot of times it's so much easier to just keep the peace or help keep balance in a situation and sacrifice a piece of ourselves to do that. And over time, when you keep sacrificing those pieces of the self, it turns into all of these little out-of-body experiences that are not a good kind of out-of-body experience. And eventually, the more of these little pieces that tend to escape and to leave us, then this hollow emptiness is what is left. And in so many cases, you see people that are seeking out things to either numb or to pacify those feelings of incompleteness or emptiness, or they'll look for another person to fill that void. And if this hasn't happened to you, then I'm sure you know someone it has happened to, that filling that void with another person is short-lived happiness. And ultimately what will occur is that you'll feel a need, because they're filling you up, and there's the perception of them helping you feel complete, that you need to give back and you need to keep giving. It's like with any new relationship, there tends to be, it's like that honeymoon phase, and everything is fabulous, and I mean, somebody could fart and it's like, oh, it smells like petunias, it just, there's really no... there's too much apprehension about ruining the beauty of this newfound relationship. So it's so much easier to just let things go and to, not call something out to the table. Well, every time you bite your tongue, every time that you just let something go that you know is wrong, there's a little piece of you that gets eaten away on the inside. Been there, done that. And usually it takes some kind of a major cataclysmic event in life to wake someone up and to literally shake them out of that. And when that kind of thing happens, that's not pleasant either, because it could be an illness, or it could be a part of the body that just decided it wanted to give out. I mean, complete vulnerability here. Yesterday, my back decided to totally tweak out in a way that it just didn't make any sense. Been practicing, hot yoga for a couple of weeks, feeling a lot stronger, and this was bending over to pick up garbage, empty the kitchen garbage in a size of a bag that's like a small Walmart bag. It's crazy. There's just no reason for it. But that was a wake up for me, like, oh, let's take a look at that and let's see what's happening with the body. And just for the record, that was on the left side of the body, which is unusual because most of the time things happen on the right side. But this reclamation piece, so important, so important. So we've talked about what it is. It's the constant giving of self. It is the constant, the surrendering to keep peace and to keep balance. Why is it important to pay attention to these things? Because that constant just giving away those essential pieces of you creates that feeling of emptiness. And if nothing is done about it, there'll be a void that there's a part of you that will want to fill that in a very unhealthy way, either with food or with alcohol, or some kind of a physically numbing substance, or maybe it's food, or maybe it's shopping. I think I've done every single one of those at some point in my life, trying to fill the void. And once I became really deliberate about changing that and reclaiming those parts of myself, everything changed. Now, something important to know, when you are ready to start that reclamation process, everyone else around you is also going to be going through this reclamation process. So there are some key things that are important to understand when doing that. So I invite you to go and check out this week's free gift on LeslieKarenHammond.com/16, let me make sure I get it right, Reclaim It. So LeslieKarenHammond.com/16, Reclaim It. And this is how to take back what you need without being selfish. Because when you start on that journey, they're not going to like it more often than not, because everyone's used to you being the way that you are. They like that. They know how to deal with that, or they know how to predict to some degree what your actions are. So if you show up and you decide that, you know what, I just had enough of this crap and I'm about to start taking this back, then they're going to pause for a minute and you're going to be shaking up their world as well. So I invite you to go and check out that free gift and take a look at some of those things, because it is very possible to start taking what you need and not to be selfish about it. Now, real quickly, taking what you need, that sounds very masculine and very forceful. But here's the thing. If you don't take what you need, who do you think is going to give it to you? No one is going to give it to you. It's so important to acknowledge what that is and then make a decision, choose to take it. If you take a look at the way a lot of men operate in the world, do you think they second guess or question whether or not it's okay for them to take what they need? Do you think they worry about what the other person thinks? Now, granted, in a lot of ways that I'm sure you've seen guys that go after, what they want, and they're not really nice about it, and they leave a wake of destruction behind them. That's not the kind of taking that we're talking about here. We're talking about taking back pieces of you that belong to you, pieces of you that need to be back in the body. Now, once you get them back, how you decide to play with those, how you decide to reintegrate them and use them, well, that's up to you. And that would be, that's a good time to reach out to someone who can help with those kinds of reintegration parts. And excuse me for readjusting a little bit here, my back's starting to talk to me. But the taking of those pieces back means that you are ready to fully step back into what you're here for. That means that you are ready to re-tap into those gifts that you have been given. Now, whether or not you believe that there was a sacred contract that was made between you and your soul before you ever came into the physical form, whether or not you believe that, it is up to you. But entertain for just a moment, what if that was the case? What if you have a much bigger mission here, and giving away all those little parts and pieces of yourself is distracting you from that mission? How much quicker do you think you could accomplish what you are here to do, to spread your magic, to inspire people to do whatever it is that your gift can inspire them to do? And for some of you that are mothers and that you have young children, you'll find that many times part of the reason that you are here is to bring well-adjusted, happy, contributing human beings into the world. After all, you grew that little person, and there is a reason they are here. So there's so many different ways that your gifts are meant to serve. So I invite you with every ounce of my being to consider what it is that has left you because you needed to make the peace. You wanted to keep the balance in your home, or you wanted to keep that balance in the workplace. So please consider going to LeslieKarenHammond.com /16 Reclaim It And if you'd like to read the full version of this blog, it should only take you about 5 minutes or so. You can go on to the website, LeslieKarenHammond/blog, and you'll see all the blogs that have been done over the past, about 4 months now. And there's some other videos there that you can check out. But it's so important. It's so important. I've gone around a lot of my life with those missing pieces of myself, and it was painful. And at some point, I, just like you, will get to the point when you're like, enough is enough. I'm tired of feeling this way, and it's time. It's time for me to feel complete. Because if you're not feeling complete and whole, then you haven't got the capacity to fully serve your clients or your families or your communities. How you feel, your level of completeness and wholeness, directly impacts the way you serve, the way you love, your ability to be fully present in any moment. And that's when the juicy stuff happens. That's when the sweetest part of life that's worth living is experienced, is when you make the deliberate choice to fully show up in all your glory. So much love and light to you. I encourage you, if you have not yet liked this page, Healing Through Your Story, please like it, please share it, and also check out Divine by Design, which is a private Facebook group where lots of inspirations, little sayings go in there, and I would love for you to be part of that community. So thank you so much for joining. I am holding space for you to reclaim that which will bring you back to wholeness, back to balance, and back to a full heart and loving in the way that you are meant to. So lots of love and light. Until next time, bye for now.